Hello guys and welcome back to Planet 40k Tyranid. Something a little bit different for you today. I thought I'd go with a bit of a comparison video comparing the Hive Tyrant to the Swarmlord. Now both of them are very good selections as characters this edition, and I wanted to break down which one is better. So we're going to get into that video today. Now remember guys, if you haven't yet subscribed, why haven't you subscribed yet? We're putting out videos every couple of days now. And we're going through tactical reviews. We're going to be doing list builds as well soon. So yeah, subscribe down below. Right, let's get started with this video. The Hive Tyrant versus the Swarmlord. So let's start with the points to begin. The Hive Tyrant is 220 points, whereas the Swarmlord is 30 points more expensive at 250 points. So already a little bit of a division there. And I'm going to give, if I'm scoring this, I would give the point to the Hive Tyrant. So I've indicated that with a green title for its name, whereas the red has obviously lost. So 1 point for the Hive Tyrant. Now as for the statistics, as well as the main abilities from the faction abilities, the core abilities, as well as the in-run save, all of those things are identical. They will move 8 inches, toughness 10, 2 plus armor save, wounds 10, leadership 7 plus, and object control is 3, deadly demise D3 with the leader keyword. They're both able to lead Tyrant Guard, which are also very good. If you've missed that video, we did that only recently. Check that video out. Very good unit. They've also both got Shadow in the Warps and Synapse with a 4 plus invulnerable save as mentioned. So that one I'm just going to give a tie, indicating that in yellow. So let's move on to some differences for these units. Let's go into the abilities to begin. We'll talk about the weapons in a moment. Abilities to begin, because they are different. They're very different. So the Hive Tyrant has got Will of the Hive Mind. So once per turn, one friendly Tyranid unit within 12 inches of one or more models with this ability can be targeted with a stratagem for 0 command points, even if a unit from your army has already been targeted by that stratagem this phase. Now of course you can only use the stratagem once per phase, but with this ability you can actually use that stratagem a second time, and it doesn't matter what the cost is, it will be completely free. So that could be Adrenal Surge for example, which is 2 command points. Maybe you want to use another epic challenge from the core rulebook. There's loads of stratagems, not just Tyranid index stratagems, but from the core rulebook as well that you can use for free and a second time that phase. Now I really like that one. Now I'm just going to jump over to the right hand side of the screen here because there's a bit of a comparison with that ability as well as the Swarmlord's Hive Commander ability. So the Hive Commander ability is that you effectively gain a CP at the start of your command phase. Now these are very similar because you can argue you're just going to gain a command point regardless, right? Whether you're using it on a stratagem, because that's what CP is for, right? It's to be using on stratagems. So they're both allowing you to spend a command point for free if you like. However, there are a few differences here. So the first, going back to the Will of the Hive Mind with the Hive Tyrant, again, you're going to be using it a second time, potentially that phase, and it could be a 2 CP stratagem. Whereas the Swarmlord's ability, Hive Commander, yes, it's a nice farming of CP every single battle round. It is only the once, and you are going to spin it on a stratagem anyway. So I personally prefer Will of the Hive Mind over Hive Commander. However, that's not all of the abilities, is it? So let's continue with the Hive Tyrants into the second ability, Onslaught, which is an aura and a psychic ability. While a friendly Tyranid unit is within 6 inches of this model, ranged weapons equipped with the models has the Assault ability. So you're massively increasing the speed of all your ranged units within your army, because they can now advance and still fire as normal. So that's going to massively help with in terms of your movement, your flexibility, getting onto objectives, getting into cover, gaining board control perhaps. So that's a big ability in my opinion. So that's the Hive Tyrant, but the Swarmlord has got 2 other abilities. One of them is Malign Presence, once per battle, so it's a one thing only. After your opponent uses a stratagem, if this model is your Warlord, which it probably will be, and is on the battlefield of course, you can use his ability. And if it does, until the end of the battle, increase the stratagem's cost to your opponent by 1 command point. Now that is huge, believe me, that is massive, because that could be a CP reroll, it could be the epic challenge stratagem, it could be, for example, if you're going up against my Necrons and I've got the Protocol Vengeful Stars, so anytime I lose a model within a unit, one single Necron warrior, I get to fire back. If you make that 2 CP, brilliant, brilliant. But there's loads of stratagems available to every single faction, again, as well as the core ones that you're going to double the price of, so you're going to rinse your opponent's CP, and they're going to think twice about using them. So that one is a massive stratagem, well, massive ability, not a stratagem. And that's not even all of it. He's also got the domination of the hive mind, so you're gaining synapse within 9 inches rather than 6. That is pretty big, because that of course relates to your battle shock tests. Whereas of course you could put that with the Hive Tyrant, I suppose, but that would be an enhancement, and in fact we're going to talk about that in a little while, so don't worry about that for now. But in terms of just abilities, purely abilities only, I'm going to be scoring this one to the Swarmlord. The first ability it has is almost on par with the Will of the Hive Mind, but doubling the price, or adding one to the price of your opponent's stratagems, I think is a huge ability. So right now it's about 1 apiece. Next we're moving into the weaponry. Now the weaponry, I'm going to try and do some maths for you. This isn't going to be like... Right, next we're going to get onto the weaponry. Now I'm going to try and do some maths for you with this weaponry, but it's not that straightforward because we're going to have to use averages, of course. Let's get to my notes. Right, so if you got the Hive Tyrant, you are going to be taking potentially just the melee weapon. So we'll just talk about the melee weapons to begin, which is the monstrous bone sword and lash whip, as well as the monstrous scything talons for the extra attacks. Now going up against guardsmen, for example, with the monstrous bone swords and lash whip, you're looking at about 5 dead guardsmen. Against space marines, you're looking at about 3 dead intercessors, for example. Going up against something that is toughness 9, just so that you can wound on a 4+, you're looking at between sort of 6 and 9 damage. Now that's not the exact average, but the damage is in 3s, so I kind of put it between 6 and 9 in terms of damage. And if you're going toughness 10 or more, so you'll be wounding on a 5+, it's between 3 and 6, more closer to 6 than it is to 3. Now if you were to include the monstrous scything talons as well, because these are extra attacks, you can add 3 guardsmen, you can add between 1 and 2 space marine intercessors, maybe a couple damage in terms of toughness 9, and toughness 10, probably the same, a couple more damage there. So in total you're looking approximately between 8, about 8 guardsmen if you're combining the weapons. Space marines you're looking at about 4 or 5. Toughness 9 you're looking at about between 8 and 11 damage, and toughness 10 you're looking at between sort of 5 and 8 damage, depending on how lucky you are, I guess. Now of course there are options to swap out your monstrous scything talons for some ranged weapons, and there are 2 ranged weapons to talk about, so this gets even more deeper with the maps. So let's try and break into this. With the heavy venom cannon, you're looking at about 2 guardsmen, probably a bit of a waste of time shooting at them. Maybe 1 space marine, between 0 and 3 damage on a toughness 9 model. Could completely whiff the roll. And toughness 10 you're looking at, again, between 0 and 3, but closer to 0, closer to getting nothing there. Not as good, because you're winning on a 5+. Now as for the Stranglethorn cannon, 3 guardsmen, 1 space marine, about 2 damage on a toughness 9 model, and again about 2 damage on a toughness 10 model. So it's very similar, I suppose. I think the Stranglethorn cannon is probably slightly better now. You get more attacks, and what we haven't in fact even mentioned is the fact that they've got the blast ability, or the blast keyword, attached to these. So we've done these without blast. The likelihood is if you're going up against infantry, guardsmen or space marines, you will be adding 1, maybe 2, maybe even 3, depending on what the unit is that you're firing at. You're going to add some attacks to that, so that will make it slightly better. Now as for the Swarmlord, you're looking at about 7 guardsmen, 4 space marine intercessors. Toughness 9 you're looking at around 9 damage, and toughness 10 you're looking between 6 and 9, closer to 6. Again, it's a 3 damage weapon, so I've done it in 3s there. So comparatively that is slightly less than what the Hive Tyrant can do, but of course we've not considered the ranged attacks for Swarmlord. We've got the Synaptic Pulse, which is a Psychic Torrent, which is only 18-inch range, but that's fine, you're going to be getting forward anyway. And it's got D6 plus 3 attacks. So when you put all the averages in, you're looking at around 4 guardsmen, 2 space marine intercessors, 2 damage on a toughness 9 model, and between 0 and 2 damage on a toughness 10 model. So all in all, once you add up everything and all said and done, they're pretty much equal. There's not much in it between the damage output from a Hive Tyrant and the damage output from Swarmlords. They've just got different weapons with different stats, but when you actually break it down and do all the maths, there's not much in it at all. I mean, the Swarmlord does have slightly better stats in terms of the averages, but again, we didn't talk about Blast. So once you add Blast in, I think it's better. Now maybe you could argue the fact that the Swarmlord going up against monsters and vehicles is a better option. Maybe, because the blast keyword isn't really a factor. But to be honest, I'm just going to put this as a draw because I can't really split them. There's not much in between them. Both the major melee weapons are strength 9 minus 2 AP 3 damage. Yes, you do get more attacks with the Swarmlord, but you're then getting more attacks because of the monstrous Siren Talons with the Hive Tyrant. So everything just comes back full circle, and I think it's just a tie. Now, something else we need to discuss is the keywords, which we briefly mentioned earlier in this video. Now, I'll put the keywords on the screen for you now. Notice there is one difference between the keywords, and that is the epic hero keyword for the Swarmlord. Now, this is a huge thing because, well, for two reasons. First of all, you can only have one Swarmlord, whereas you can have multiple Hive Tyrants as we currently know this game. Maybe that gets changed in FAQs or mission packs where you can only take one Hive Tyrant like in 9th edition, but currently we can take as many as we want, or no, 3 in fact. Unless we're going into the wing variant, that's a whole different game. That's a whole different ball game. We don't need to talk about that. So epic hero, you're only getting one of them. But secondly, and probably more importantly, is you cannot put an enhancement on a Swarmlord, or an epic hero in fact. Now there are some enhancements that are worth a look. Alien Culling perhaps, because then you can get to redeploy 3 units. That's not the best, not the greatest one. I mean, you could put that on any of your other characters, I suppose. Might be a waste putting it on a Hive Tyrant. You've got the Synaptic Linchpin to get your synapse to 9 inches, which will in fact match the synapse of the Swarmlord, but you're now paying points for this. So yeah, you would in fact be paying 10 points more, so that would still make your Hive Tyrant cheaper than the Swarmlord by 20 points. So you could do that. The other option is perfectly adapted, so you get to reroll whether it's a hit roll, a wound roll, a damage roll, an advanced roll, or a charge roll, or a saving throw in fact. Could be handy. And the last one, you shouldn't really be using it. It's a feel no pain save of a 4+. Now bear in mind this unit is very likely going to be going with the Tyrant Guard, and the Tyrant Guard are going to be providing characters with a 5+ feel no pain save within the unit. So they're going to be within that unit anyway. Now okay, yes, the enhancement is a 4+, because of course it's going to be within Synapse. If you want to pay CP for the 4+ over a 5+, that's fine. It's going to cost you 25 points. I don't think it's worth it. If you're putting 220 points and then it's only making it 5 points less than the Swarmlord at that point. But you do have a 4+ in feel no pain save, so yeah, it's up to you really, isn't it? But for that part alone, I've got to give that point back to the Hive Tyrant because yeah, you've just got more flexibility with them. Again, enhancements, multiple of them, and that's what I would prefer to do. So all in all, where do I stand? I mean, we've gone through both the data sheets, we've kind of tried to split them in terms of abilities, in terms of weapons, in terms of the keywords, and to be honest with you, I am struggling to split them. It all depends on what you want to do. Do you want to debuff your opponent with their stratagems? I think that's the main reason for taking a Swarmlord is to debuff, because you can do everything else that a Hive Tyrant can virtually do, but you can also do that debuffing. Whereas the Hive Tyrant, yes, it's an epic hero, so they can get the enhancement, and yes, you can use 2 CP stratagems or use the same stratagem in that phase, and that's the only real difference I see from the Hive Tyrant and the Swarmlord. So maybe it's just a matter of taste, a matter of opinion. I think for me the Hive Tyrant is my pick personally, but I do like the look of the Swarmlord. I mean, maybe even go for both, I don't know. But that's, I can't divide them, guys, so that's, I hope this has helped somewhat, because I'm not really dividing them. Maybe in fact, going back to one more thing, the points. We should really talk about the points a little bit more. If you are saving 30 points, taking a Hive Tyrant, and you can put an enhancement on him, and he's still cheaper than the Swarmlord, the only thing at that point you are losing is the debuff to your opponent's stratagems. That is literally it. That is literally it. So yeah, that's for me, I would slightly favour the Hive Tyrant, but there's not much in it at all. So guys, I hope you found this slightly informative if you are trying to make your decision with the Hive Tyrant or a Swarmlord. So I hope I've swayed you in one way or another, or maybe I've completely confused you. I don't know. You let me know down in the comments down below, and make sure you are subscribed when you are leaving. Thank you all guys for watching. See you in the next one.